Hi, and welcome to the Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast presented by Wolf Precision Incorporated, where we learn about and share long range shooting and custom rifle building. I am your host, Jamie Dotson, and welcome to the show. Hi, and welcome to episode 87 of Wolf Precision's Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Dotson, and welcome to the show. In this episode, we are going to continue on to part 5 of our 4 pillars of marksmanship. And so this is going to tie the last several series together. We're also going to take a Q&A and answer a question that was sent in by a listener of the podcast. And last but not least, touch base on some of the upcoming rifle building classes held here in Somerset, PA, and possibly abroad. So looking forward to a great podcast here. Thank you for joining us. But without further ado, here we go. All right, to start things off, we do want to say thanks to Krieger Barrels for sponsoring the show. Krieger is a maker of fine cut rifle barrels. They have a program called Triggertech where you can log on to their website at Kriegertech.com and get your barrel ordered and actually in your hand in as little as 3 to 5 business days from in-inventory items. So if you need a great quality barrel and you need it now, stop over to Kriegertech.com. All right, so we talked about our 4 pillars of the fundamentals of marksmanship, and we talked about how when you get into this type of shooting, you really do need to have these foundations set, and they have to be set solid on solid ground so you can start working and building on the fundamentals of marksmanship, on improving your quality of shooting, and probably just as important, improving the consistency in the quality of shooting. So like your day-to-day performance. One of the things that a lot of people struggle with is when they get to the range, one day they're having a great day, everything's going awesome, and the next time they go, it's not going so well. Then the next day they go again, going pretty good, starting to get some confidence back, and they're shooting, and then they go out again and with their buddies, and it's just everything starts to fall apart. And one of the main reasons this really starts to happen is because you have these 4 individual pillars that we talked about in the previous podcast, but we've got to put something on top of it to set everything together and hold it together. Like consider it like a tabletop now that's going to tie the 4 pillars underneath it together to make a solid platform for you basically to start building your fundamentals of marksmanship on. And so if you didn't get a chance to listen to our previous podcast, I really encourage you to go back and find them. They're the 4 pillars of marksmanship. This will be the 5th one in the series and the last one. So I encourage you to go back through and listen to those podcasts. But this is going to be about the mental checklist, and we consider this the tabletop that we're setting on all 4 of the previous pillars that we talked about. The reason this part is really important is you have to have something to tie the things together that then you can rinse and repeat. You have to have something to remind yourself of the things that you need to be doing over and over and over again to where it doesn't become so much as an ingrained habit as it does an ingrained procedure. And that's sort of how I like to look at it. Habits, good or bad, can be broken, can be, worked on. But when you put in place a procedure, that's different. It's not a habit. This is a mechanical device that you've put into place that you're going to follow every single time and hopefully get the same results. I really like pilots for this for lots of different reasons, but one of the things about long-range shooting is you'll be surprised that a lot of pilots and aviators get into this sport. And one of the things that really fascinate me about pilots, and I've got a couple hours in an airplane. I did 8 years in aviation in the military and earned my aircraft crew member badge, all that cool stuff. And I got a lot of hours in that. And then I do have some hours in private small airplanes. So I love to fly. Eventually, if I ever retire, I'll probably work to continue to get my private pilot's license. But one of the things about flying is if you've ever, went out with other pilots or you talk to other pilots or pilots get into long-range shooting. And in one particular class last year, we actually had, I believe, 3 or 4 of the 5 students. So the majority of the students there were either retired commercial airline pilots, private pilots, or private pilot instructors. all unbeknownst to me before they came here, but that's just, they sort of migrate to long-range shooting. Anyway, to go back to the mental checklist, and what I would consider almost putting in place a procedure is, use the airline industry and use pilots as a great example. If you're going to go up in an airplane with somebody flying it, you sort of want them to be squared away and not just be winging it, or to say, well, I've got just good habits, I don't need to check anything. They actually have a checklist that they go over through every procedure, through every process, from going over the outside of the airplane to checking the fuel tanks to doing a walk around from point A the whole way around the aircraft back to the starting point. And then a lot of times they'll actually check it again, or they'll have somebody else go through. The same thing goes when they're doing their startup procedures. They have a checklist that they go over piece by piece to check every instrument, piece by piece to check to make sure that everything is working properly. And it's a procedure, that way they don't forget something or overlook something that's super important. Same thing when they're doing their startup, same thing when they're taxiing down the runway, same thing when they're getting ready to take off, same thing when they're getting to level flight, same thing when they're getting to destinations, same thing when they're getting ready to land again. So they have this pre-landing procedure that they'll go through, then they have landing procedures, then they have shutdown procedures, taxiing procedures. One of the things that you'll see, though, is they have this checklist. And I think when you're getting into this type of shooting, or you really care, or you're passionate about learning the art of long-range shooting, you've got to get yourself a mental checklist, is what I call it, but it's more probably appropriately named as getting yourself a written procedure that you're going to follow each and every time you shoot. So this is the procedure that I use when I'm getting ready to shoot. And believe it or not, I still use it today. So if you look at a pilot that has 20 years experience and you ask them, hey, do you still go over this checklist every time through your procedures? And they're going to tell you yes every single time. So here's my mental checklist, and you can make your own. But the reason this part's important is it's going to tie together the 4 fundamentals of marksmanship in a way that makes sense, that works together in order every single time. So where I like to start with my mental checklist is the first thing I like to look for is my natural point of aim. I just want to make sure that I'm not pushing or pulling the rifle to get on target. The next thing on my procedure list would be my firm handshake grip. Try not to forget about your pinky. We talk about that in class. The next thing on my procedure is loading the bipod or pulling the rifle into my shoulder. The next thing on my procedure list is cheek weld and cheek pressure. Where is the rifle touching my face? How much pressure am I putting on the stock? The next thing on my procedure list, once I clear all that, natural respiratory pause. Next thing on my procedure list is straight, clean pull of the trigger. Next thing on my procedure list is follow through. And then last but not least is cycling the bolt, resetting to shoot again. So let me go over that list one more time with you. It's natural point of aim, firm handshake grip, load the bipod or pull the rifle gently into the shoulder, cheek weld, cheek pressure, natural respiratory pause, straight clean pull of the trigger, follow through. And then once the bullet hits the target or I spot my impact, I'll at that point work the bolt and recycle to get set to shoot again. As you start working on this, you'll start to notice that at first it's slow. And it's funny here at the shooting school. So let me give you some examples of why this matters. The first day at the long-range shooting school, we really hone in on fundamentals. I mean, it really is the heart of everything that we do. Everything else is just distance. It's just, dialing dope and working with atmospheric conditions. But if you don't have good fundamentals, making the target farther away doesn't help anything, right? You're not going to learn any more by missing stuff long range as if missing stuff short range, So when we set up for the shooting school, when we get to the range after lunch and we start working on the actual shooting portions of the class, I often, I go over this list in the class, I break everything down piece by piece, then in the end I tie it all back together again in a way that makes sense and that they can follow through and be checking all of this. And when they get to the range, 90% or higher of the students will lay their book that we issue here at the school on the ground beside them. They will not open that page to the checklist. And they will continue to shoot for an hour. Within a very short period of time, I'll ask the class, okay, let's take a break for a minute. Let's go over the mental checklist again. What's the first thing on the list? And you can just watch the blank stares. Like, someone will get it, but usually there's a little bit of hesitation. Everybody's sort of unsure. Then I'll say, hey, what's the second thing on the list? What's the third thing? What's the fourth thing? And they forget. It's just that easy. This is how ingrained it is in us as a habit to not do it. So what I remind the students is that, hey, let's break open our books. Let's go to the page here, and let's pull that out of our book and slide it in the back of our big book that we give you that has the clear covers that you can slide sheets in and out of so you can see them. I said, let's slide that in there and prop that up beside you while you're shooting. As soon as they do that, watch the difference on the targets. It's absolutely incredible. It would be like removing everybody from the firing line and replacing them with totally different people. So I'm trying to say that regardless of whether you use my list or you attend our school or use somebody else's procedure list of how you go through this, you should have it and you should start working with it. Because if you don't, you're going by habit, you're going by, it's just sort of like seat of your pants type shooting. And you really don't want to be the guy in the airplane with the pilot that is a seat of the pants type pilot, So you've got to get control of this. And probably the most important thing I can say is you've got to take control of this process. Take control and put a procedure in place to verify everything every time. And it will change your shooting. It will help you with this level of consistency that will go much, much higher. And then eventually it will be ingrained that you're still going to go through the procedure. You're still going to go through the checklist, but you don't have to physically look at it, and it's getting faster. So eventually what will happen is, if you start working with this, is it'll almost be so ingrained that you're already going through it in your head while you're getting ready to shoot and finding things that are wrong before they even come up on the list. It's that ingrained as a procedure now. And pilots, believe it or not, do the same thing. So they have this procedure so ingrained that they will go through the procedure and then they'll go back through the checklist to make sure they didn't miss anything. And so they could actually go through the procedure step by step. They have a procedure they go through, and then they'll actually look at their checklist to make sure that they didn't miss anything. That's sort of where we want to be as shooting. So you've got these 4 individual pillars setting down as far as your fundamentals of marksmanship. The procedure that you go through to tie all of these together is that platform that you set on top of all 4 pillars, ties them together, and then gives you that platform to start building as a shooter on top of. A very stable, solid platform of both fundamentals and procedures that allow you to take your shooting to the next level. So if you can, get yourself a procedure set up in place, get it in writing, how you want the procedure to go, and start following it. And you'll be surprised on your consistency and your quality of shooting. So I do want to take a quick moment and thank MDT. MDT is a sponsor of the show, and we really do appreciate having them on board. They make great chassis, several different models, including the new HNT26, which is a 26-ounce hunting chassis. We will be doing a video review of that chassis this week, so keep an eye on our YouTube channel as well as our website. We'll post it up on our Facebook page as well. This is a fantastic chassis, and we think there's a couple chassis coming on market that are going to soon change the industry. This is one of them. So if you get a chance, stop over to mdttac.com. That's mdttac.com today. We'd also like to thank Triggertech. Triggertech is also another proud sponsor of the show and maker of world-class triggers. That's what we put in all of our rifles here. It's what I personally shoot. And for me, personally, one of the safest triggers I think you can buy, one of the highest quality that you can buy, one single screw to adjust your pull weight, no worries about over travel, no worries about sear engagement, all these other things that can sort of get you in harm's way with the trigger. So if you're in the market for an aftermarket trigger for your rifle, customer or otherwise, stop over to Triggertech.com today. All right, so we had a question sent in by one of our listeners, and I did say that we're going to start going over some Q&As. So we picked this one up here. This is sent in by Michael. So Michael, please send us an email and let us know if you would like a shirt or a hat as our gift as saying thank you for tuning into the podcast and for sending us a great question. So Michael had gone on to say that he's been doing his research, and so I can build my first custom bolt-action rifle, and I have a few questions about your services. Is the Ace something I can swap with the same barrel and shoot different calibers through with the same barrel? An example like 6.5 by 47, 6.5 PRC, 6.5 Creedmoor, etc., etc., etc. Looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you, Michael. Michael, thank you so much for tuning into the podcast, and thanks for the kind email leading up to the question. I really do appreciate it. And to answer your question, yes, that's one of the coolest things about the Ace is if you build a rifle, say, for example, in 6.5 Creedmoor, and all of a sudden you get the 6.5 by 47 bug. This is a caliber you can't get out of your head. You'd rather go with that. Or, 6.5 Creed ammo isn't available. You decide to change things up for whatever reason. One of the coolest things about the system is that you can actually take that chamber off of that barrel and put another caliber on it and shoot the same barrel. So you could change from the calibers that we offer right now in the Ace and 6.5 would be, of course, the 6.5 by 47 Lapua that you mentioned, the 6.5 Creed, of course, the 6.5 PRC is another great one. And the only difference between the 6.5 Creed and the PRC is you're going to have to change your bolt head, which one of the nice things about the Bad Actions is all of them have their new interchangeable bolt head system, which A is solid, so it's not a floating system, and we'll be doing some videos on this coming up soon as well. But you'll change out your bolt head to a Magnum bolt head and simply swap out your Ace and you're back into action again. So one of the things I think that's one of the biggest benefits is, A, you get to build your own rifle, which I think is cool, but you also can change your rifle as the situations change in your life. So if you build a 6.5 Creedmoor and you're really loving it, but all of a sudden you're into varmint hunting or you want to turn that into a 223 to go out and shoot prairie dogs, you could do that. You could change it to a Magnum for an elk gun. So you build this really high quality rifle. You're not stuck with what you built. You could actually modify and change it to whatever your current needs are or to an upcoming need that you have or a hunt that you're planning for, so on and so forth. So, Michael, thank you so much for sending in the question. And if you can, reach out to us via email. Send us whether you would like a hat or a shirt and what size, and we will get you one out as our way of saying thank you. Now, to continue on with that, and just to throw a couple other things out there, we did add, for example, we have our 2-day custom rifle building class. We've talked about this several times over the past 6 months to a year on how much in depth we want to go into when it comes to gunsmithing or building when you get into custom rifles, because there is a lot that gets involved in this. And so one of the theories is that we could probably accomplish most of what we want to do in a day and go over the core components on the tools that the customer is going to need, the procedures that we go through when we build and we change calibers and so on and so forth. But there are situations, for example, and we got a stock in the other day again that was inletted wrong in the barrel channel. This is not uncommon. And so it was off a little bit. To show you how to fix that and make it work again, to show you how to bed a rifle. And again, this is something that's not needed on every rifle. Most of your rifles do not need to be bedded, but we've ran into chassis that should absolutely have been bedded. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They had a small issue, very easily correctable, and it's something that within an hour we could train a customer, and when they go home, they could not only fix their own rifles up, but then if somebody else has an issue or a problem, they would know how to do it properly. In years past, it wasn't uncommon when we were doing general gunsmithing that a customer would send us or call and say, hey, look, I can't get my action screws out of my rifle. It's stuck. So they would send us the rifle or whatever, and we would get it here and take the action screws out, only to realize that they glued their barreled action in their stock. So basically they bedded it improperly, not knowing what release agents to use or what to use to make sure that didn't happen. That's not uncommon. And, you get this material in areas it's not supposed to be. You use the wrong release agents. And another one is the wrong technique. So, we've been doing this for close to 15, 20 years. We filmed and produced with Gordy Gritters several of his gunsmithing videos. So Gordy Gritters over the years has been a great friend of ours, and we've done a couple video productions with him and some training videos and a lot to do with bedding. And, we know a lot about it, and we're sort of experts in it as far as our abilities to teach it. As a matter of fact, some of the online gunsmithing institutes, when I talked to Gordy a couple years ago, had taken the videos that we filmed and produced with him and were using it as part of their classes without permission from us or Gordy, and using it as part of their paid program using our information. So when you get into bedding a rifle, one of the big things is you can actually bed a rifle improperly and cause just as many issues as you're trying to solve. And this is measurable. So years and years and years ago, guys would send us other custom rifle builds that were built by X, Y, and Z gunsmith that something's not right and they've run out of wit's end, and they'll call us, hey, can you check this over? We don't know what's going on. And I don't do that anymore, but back then it wasn't uncommon. I would say, yeah, but just, do me a favor. Don't throw me under the bus. If I find something, I'll try to fix it for you. And so one of the big things was if it was bedded, that we could measure stress in the bedding. And there's techniques to do this, and we know how, but having a stress-free bed job is just priceless. I mean, if you're going to do it to solve problems, not inject more. So when we get into these custom rifle building classes, what we've decided to do, and one of my great experiences has been with some of the different colleges that we've attended and taken classes at too, is you really do have to take time. This is a professional class. We are professionals in every right in what we do. And we want to make sure that when we have customers coming in from Texas, or I believe we have a gentleman coming in that's an Alaska boat captain, which is awesome. We're looking forward to have him come to one of the classes. But we want to be able to take the time to go over everything and the step-by-step process. And so we're going to need 2 days to do that. And we are going to include in this a lot of the things you're going to have to deal with, all the different stocks and chassis, not only just a complete build, but how to change calibers. Like, for example, with Michael's question, how to modify and change barrels, the barrel lengths, the different options you have with how you change the actions of bolt heads, and how you properly tear things down and clean them. All of these things are a really big deal, and some questions just aren't asked. And so we want to make sure that we go through both in the classroom and in the armory, just really give you a full-on 2-day real course that's going to go over not only the things that we should teach in teaching you how to build and maintain your own custom rifle, but all the things that are basically at that next level gunsmithing, that when you go home, you could bed a rifle. You could do it for yourself. You could do it for somebody else if you wanted to, but you're really going to get a hang on how this is really supposed to work, and how to change barrels, and how to properly install scopes, and all these other things that we do here. We want the customers to leave equipped and well prepared to go out and really just take their rifle to the next level and not have small issues come up causing their rifles problems unbeknownst to them. And so we try to cover all these little things to look for, to recognize, and then not only if you do have these problems, how to fix it, give you the tools. So it's going to be a 2-day class, and we're going to limit the class to 6 students in a class. Some of the classes are going to be right before some of our long-range shooting schools as we get through the summer. So you can come in and take a 2-day build class with us and continue on straight into the long-range shooting school if you would like. Those classes are live. We updated our website last night, so you can log on and check them out. And we're probably going to hold about 1 class a month. Now, the class is not cheap. And, I'm personally going to be teaching this year's classes until we get one of our instructors up that we feel confident and comfortable in going through the build process. Now, if you come in and build your rifle with us, we have other people here that also helps as well. So we can have several customers come in, and each of us can be working with a different customer and going through and building your rifle. But as far as the teaching portion, this is what we're really good at. And I think I owe it to the customers as the inventor of the process, and I own the patents, and we did all the work up to this point. So you're not going to have somebody else in there teaching in the build class it didn't have anything to do with it. I'm going to be there personally teaching the class with you. And so the class is $795. It's a 2-day gunsmithing class featuring the building of the rifle with the ace, but it's going to go over all the advanced gunsmithing stuff to really get you well prepared and get you out there and building a rifle properly. So if you want any details on any of it, you're more than welcome to stop over to our website. It's wolfprecision.net, and you will see the custom rifle building classes or the gunsmithing classes are live. And like I said, as we get through late spring, early summer, we have a couple classes that are actually right before our long-range shooting school. So if you are coming in from out of state and you would like to sort of, if you're going to be here, take the time to take both classes back to back, we'd love to have you just sign up for one of the classes that are leading right into school and then continue right on to our shooting school. It'd be awesome. The other thing I want to touch base on with this particular podcast here is we did a couple small videos on HBN coding. They're up on our YouTube channel now. You can stop over to our Facebook page at Wolf Precision Inc. You can see them. We are going to start doing a lot of small instructional videos, just showcasing some of the things that we do to try to help out a little bit, but it really doesn't replace our reloading classes. So our reloading classes are live. They are up, and you can sign up. Our first 3 classes of the year are announced, and we're probably going to hold these classes maybe one late next fall, but our reloading classes are strictly going to be winter and spring type classes. As soon as we get into summer, we're full on in our long range shooting schools and other events that we do. So if you're interested in taking a reloading class, just as a reminder, they are filling up. We only have a handful of slots left in each class. You can stop over to wolfprecision.net. It is a 2-day class. We're going to cover a lot of advanced hand loading. Love to have you. But they are going to be winter and spring classes only. So if you miss out on our last class or 2 of the year, we probably won't hold any more till we get into maybe October. We'll hold one right before hunting season to try to help some guys out, but then they'll probably stop until the snow flies and hunting season has really stopped, and we'll make it some winter classes. So looking forward to those. Our first class is actually scheduled in January. So if you'd like to join us, love to have you. And then also, we talked about the 22 Creed, and I just want to give you an update on some of the things that we're learning with it, and as well as some bullet designs. So we get calls asking all the time about different calibers for different hunting situations, and I'm a big fan of lower recoiling calibers that people can learn to shoot well. And one of the things that I think is taking these rifles to the next level, including the 6.5 Creed and PRC and all these other great cartridges, but even the 22 Creed, is the bullet design. One of the things that's absolutely fascinating, and I'll try to post some pictures up later today on our Facebook page, they're a little hard, I don't want to say gruesome, but they're kill shots with bullets like cutting-edge bullets. Now, cutting-edge bullets are made here in Pennsylvania. They're not a sponsor of our show. We bought bullets from them here for testing and evaluation. We have some clients down south that are testing them, and they're really big into like King of the 2 Mile and such type shooting. So they make really high quality bullets, but they're turned bullets and they are brutal for hunting. They are killing bullets. And so they make several different types of bullets, but one of them in particular that we've been testing here in the 22 Creed, and a good friend of ours, Don, is testing in Georgia, is absolutely devastating to animals. And I think this brings up 2 points is, number one, if you're in a state where you can't shoot traditional jacketed bullets, or you want bullet performance. And some of the problems with some of the different hunting type bullets is they're either too tough and they just won't open up a distance and do enough damage, or they're not tough enough and you get stuck with that 60-yard shot broadside and you're going super fast. Like, for example, in the case of a 22 Creed, 34 and 3,500 feet per second fast. And man, if that isn't put together, it's going to blow up on the animal. And it's not uncommon. Even in calibers like the 7 mag and such, you get a hunting bullet at super close range at those high velocities. Sometimes on impact, they will blow. We had a customer, we talked about this in a previous podcast, that contacted us right after he heard the podcast and said that he had shot an elk twice at like 50 and 70 yards with a 7 mag and never recovered it. He said he could hear the whop, but the bullets were blowing up on the animal on the shoulder. And of course he wounded it, but he never recovered that animal. And he said that stuck with him forever on how in the world did that just happen. And so I think when you get into hunting class bullets, start looking at your solids like cutting edge. We're doing a lot of testing with the 22 Creed. And I really think these types of bullets will take these sub-nominal calibers that people would just write off and say, well, you need a 300 Win Mag to shoot a mule deer. There's some books out there in print still today that will tell you for a big mule deer, you should have a minimum of 300 Win Mag. I will tell you that, man, you get into these bullets now and 6.5 Creed, and I'm even going to go as far as saying 22 Creed, with as tough as these bullets are and the amount of damage that they're doing to these animals, killing them quickly, efficiently, and humanely, dispatching the animal as quick and as painless as possible. That's sort of our goal when we're hunting. We're not out there to torture and make things suffer. We're trying to harvest an animal. And so when you can do it quickly and efficiently, and in our case, tighten that area up that you're no longer at close range or long range, giving up at close range the bullets or popping at long range the bullets are too tough type thing. So I think these bullets are going to take some of these cartridges into the next level to where you really could have a young shooter like a young female or a young male that just doesn't want to have the daylight kicked out of them. They could take a 22 Creed with a 60 grain solid. And by the way, if you go on the Cutting Edge Bullets website, you'll see a review of a 60 grain solid that knocked a black bear down and passed completely through the animal and dispatched it cleanly. We have some customers down south that are shooting deer with them now, and we are getting feedback that's just mind-blowing, like amazing on what damage that these things do and how quickly they kill the animals. It's incredible bullets. So again, we don't get paid by Cutting Edge. I'm not here selling them. There's other people that make these types of bullets too. Barnes has been around a long time. But I'll tell you, the Cutting Edge stuff that we've been testing here so far has been fantastic and just grateful to see it. And they're in inventory. They're a little more expensive than your traditional hunting bullets, but they're in inventory. And you can HBN coat them, which we've done, and so some of the other clients that we work with. And that has all the benefits, again, of HBN coating all of your other bullets. So you've got that benefit too. So we're going to talk and try to bring some of them onto the podcast. And we're really looking forward to several industry interviews as we start getting ready for and leading up to SHOT Show. And hopefully get a chance as soon as SHOT Show's over to talk about some of the newer products that's just getting released. So we're looking forward to all that. If you have anybody in the industry that you would like us to reach out to bring on the podcast for an interview, or if you have some questions that we would like to ask some of them, please reach out to us. Our email here is contact@wolfprecision.net, and send it to us just in the subject line, put podcast question or podcast interview, and we'd love to hear from you, and we'll try to reach out and make those things happen. But thank you so much, everybody, for taking the time to join the podcast here. We really do appreciate it. And if you like the podcast and you enjoy the content and you think it's worthwhile, if you would like it, if you would share it, we always really appreciate that. And if you can comment on it, that helps us in the ratings and people finding us more and more. That really means a lot to us here at the podcast as well as at Wolf Precision. So thank you so much. My name is Jamie Dotson. I'm your host, and you're listening to the Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building Podcast.